What's your go-to breakfast? Cereal? Toast? Coffee? Now imagine starting your day with a pint of beer and a slice of cheese. That was a typical breakfast for many Europeans in the Middle Ages. In this video, we'll explore how breakfast has changed over time, and you might be surprised to find that some of your ancestors' breakfast choices were quite different from what we consider normal today. As we explore the evolution of breakfast, we encounter a time when Americans swapped their bacon for bowls of grains. But these weren't your typical oats or cornflakes. One popular breakfast cereal of the early 1900s was so crunchy, it was said you could hear your neighbor eating it. What was this noisy morning meal, and why did it capture the nation's appetite? Enter the reign of grains, a period in the early 20th century when breakfast tables across America were dominated by cereals and porridges. Two products in particular stood out: cream of wheat and grape nuts. These grain-based breakfasts rose to prominence during a time of rapid industrialization when people needed quick filling meals to start their day. Cream of wheat, introduced in 1893, quickly became a household name. This hot cereal, made from farina, was marketed as a nutritious and easily digestible meal. Its smooth texture and mild flavor made it a hit with both children and adults. The company behind cream of wheat employed clever marketing strategies, including the use of a smiling black chef named Rastus as its mascot, a controversial choice that reflected the racial attitudes of the time. Grape nuts, despite its name, contains neither grapes nor nuts. Invented by C.W. Post in 1897, this cereal was made from wheat and barley. Its hard, crunchy texture was indeed so noticeable that it inspired the curiosity gap we opened with. You really could hear someone crunching on grape nuts from the next room. If you're enjoying this journey through breakfast history, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more fascinating food history. To give you a taste of how these breakfasts were prepared, let's look at a traditional recipe for cream of wheat. Unlike today's instant versions, the original preparation took more time and attention. You'd start by bringing water to a boil, then slowly whisk in the farina, stirring constantly to prevent lumps. After about 2 to 3 minutes of cooking, you'd add a pinch of salt and perhaps a pat of butter. The result was a creamy, warm porridge that would stick to your ribs and keep you full until lunchtime. The popularity of these grain-based breakfasts marked a significant shift in American eating habits. They represented a move away from the heavy, meat-centric breakfasts of the past towards lighter, more convenient options. This change was driven by evolving work patterns, urbanization, and a growing awareness of dietary health. While Americans were shifting towards lighter breakfasts, across the Atlantic, a very different morning meal was taking shape. Imagine starting your day with a plate of cold cuts, cheese, and even a glass of beer. This hearty fare was indeed considered a standard breakfast in Germany, reflecting a broader European tradition of savory morning meals. The concept of a savory breakfast wasn't unique to Germany. Across much of Europe, particularly in colder climates, breakfast was traditionally a substantial affair designed to fuel workers for a long day of physical labor. In England, the full English breakfast, also known as a fry-up, became an institution. This meal typically included eggs, bacon, sausages, baked beans, grilled tomatoes, and toast, a far cry from the light, grain-based breakfasts gaining popularity in America. These hearty breakfasts were deeply rooted in agricultural lifestyles and the demands of manual labor. In rural areas, farmers and laborers needed a calorie-rich start to their day to sustain them through morning chores. The full English breakfast, for instance, provided a balanced mix of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates that could keep a worker satisfied until the midday meal. In the Netherlands, a popular breakfast dish called uitsmijter emerged. This open-faced sandwich topped with fried eggs, cheese, and ham was not only filling, but also quick to prepare, making it ideal for both home and restaurant settings. The name uitsmijter literally means bouncer in Dutch, possibly referring to its status as a late-night pub food before it became a breakfast staple. The German Frühstück, or breakfast, traditionally consisted of an array of breads, cold cuts, cheeses, and sometimes even beer or wine. This might seem unusual from a modern perspective, but it reflected both cultural norms and practical considerations. In an era before widespread refrigeration, preserved meats and aged cheeses were reliable, safe food options. However, just as American breakfast habits evolved, so too did European morning meals. As work patterns shifted away from agricultural and manual labor towards more sedentary occupations, the need for such calorie-dense breakfasts diminished. Health concerns also began to influence breakfast choices, with many people opting for lighter options like yogurt, fruit, and whole-grain cereals. Today, while traditional savory breakfasts still hold a place in European culinary culture, they're often reserved for weekends or special occasions, rather than daily consumption. Many Europeans now start their day with a quick coffee and pastry, mirroring the convenience-focused breakfast trends seen in America. While modern breakfasts trend towards convenience, our ancestors had a shockingly different approach. Imagine waking up to a slice of fruit pie or a bowl of sweet custard. These weren't occasional treats, but everyday breakfast staples in early America. What led to such an unexpected morning menu, and why did it disappear? The concept of sweet breakfasts in colonial America might seem bizarre to us today, but it was deeply rooted in the culinary traditions of the time. Egg custards and fruit pies were not only acceptable, but often encouraged as morning fare. This practice reflected both the availability of ingredients and the cultural influences of the era. Egg custards, in particular, were a popular breakfast choice. These creamy, protein-rich dishes were easy to prepare and could be made in large quantities, making them ideal for feeding families or farmhands. A traditional recipe for egg custard might include eggs, milk, sugar, and a touch of nutmeg, all baked together until set. This dish would have been served warm or at room temperature, often alongside bread or biscuits. Fruit pies were another sweet breakfast staple. Unlike today's dessert pies, these were often less sweet and made with whatever fruits were in season. Apple, cherry, and peach pies were common morning meals, providing a combination of fruit and pastry that was both filling and flavorful. The prevalence of sweet breakfasts in colonial America can be attributed to several factors. First, sugar was becoming more widely available and affordable during this period, making sweetened dishes more common. Second, the British influence on American cuisine brought with it a tradition of sweet breakfast foods. Lastly, in an era before modern nutritional science, there was little distinction between breakfast foods and other meals. People simply ate what was available and satisfying. However, as the 19th century progressed, these sweet breakfast traditions began to fade. The rise of industrialization brought with it new ideas about nutrition and efficiency. Health reformers like Sylvester Graham advocated for plainer, less rich foods. At the same time, the need for quick, easy-to-prepare breakfasts in an increasingly urban workforce led to the development of cold cereals. By the early 20th century, sweet custards and pies had largely disappeared from the American breakfast table, replaced by cereals, toast, and eggs. This shift reflected changing attitudes about health, convenience, and what constituted a proper breakfast. As we've seen, breakfast has undergone a remarkable transformation over the centuries. From hearty meat dishes and savory spreads to sweet pies and crunchy cereals, our morning meals reflect the changing tides of society, work, and health awareness. These historical breakfasts offer us more than just culinary curiosity. They provide a window into the lives of our ancestors, revealing how they fueled their days and what they valued in their diets. By exploring these old recipes, we gain a deeper appreciation for the evolution of our food culture. As we look to the future, it's worth considering how our own breakfast habits might be viewed by future generations. Will our granola bars and smoothie bowls seem as strange to them as beer and cheese for breakfast seems to us now? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: breakfast will continue to evolve, mirroring the changes in our society and our understanding of nutrition.